Hey everybody, welcome back to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and today we're continuing on the bodywork process on groundskeeper. I've got the bodywork, the metal work pretty well done, looking good, feeling good, but it is going to take a little bit of Bondo. So if you guys are interested in this project and want to follow along, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, like it, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, and we're gonna get started. I've got some fantastic body filler. I'm betting it's fantastic. So I'm gonna get some of this mixed up. It doesn't really need it on the crown of the roof, mainly just where I fixed it. So we're gonna go where necessary from about here forward, around here this way, and about the same thing on the other side. So I'm gonna start getting some mud mixed up and we'll start spreading it. All right, everybody's got their own way of doing things. I understand that. My way is not the right way, not the wrong way, just my way. So first thing I'm gonna do is stir this filler up in the can really good. These things sit on the shelf at the store for months or years or weeks or who knows how long at a time. Starts to separate in there and not what it needs to be, so you need to get in here and really stir it all back up. This stuff must be pretty fresh because it's not didn't really look all that separated when I pulled it out of pulled the lid off the can. Get that stirred up. And I know that it's going to take a decent amount of filler to lay down where I need it, but I'm not going to try to make enough filler to do that whole area all in one shot, because if I mix up this whole mixing board full of filler and go and start spreading my filler, it's going to harden up on me before I get through it, and then I'm just throwing it away. So I'll make up an amount that I think I can get through before it hardens, and then once I run out, I'll come back to the board, back to the table, mix up some more, and so on and so forth. Now, in case I forget, when I get done mixing this that I'm showing you how to mix, I'm kind of on a time crunch to get it on the truck before it hardens up. And I need to move the camera around, switch my tripod, all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I mix this up, and then I'm going to go ahead and spread this part. And then when I come back to mix some more after this stuff's done, I will move my camera around and everything, and then show you how I spread it. But I got a decent, probably 6-inch circle here, about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. And I'm just going to take and squeeze a little bit of filler in there, or a little bit of hardener in there. If you don't put enough hardener, it'll never harden. If you put too much hardener, it'll harden before you get done mixing it. So I've seen some people like to take their paint stir stick and just stir this stuff up. One of my buddies told me that's not a good idea because you push air into it. And then once you push the air into it and go and spread it out, then you've got air bubbles in your material, which are going to pop Probably not until after you get it painted. And then you're going to see it. It's going to look like crap. So the best way to mix this up is to fold it, kind of like I'm doing right here. Just pick some up, fold it back on itself. Don't think I got enough hardener in there because it should kind of turn a little bit of color and it's not. So I'm going to put just a little bit more in. Probably end up being too much and I'll waste this batch of Bondo, but we'll see what happens. Alright, that's looking mixed up pretty good. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and go spread this batch. And then I'll, when I mix up the next batch, I'll move everything around so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, got another batch mixed up here. And once again, just because this is how I say to do it, doesn't mean it's the right way or the best way or whatever. But I put a little bit on my applicator, and I'm going to come over here and I loosely press down on the metal where I'm putting it, and then I just drag it all the way through. Mind you, I'm trying to prevent myself from having to do any extra sanding. So I'd rather put another coat on after I sand it than have to sand all day long to get through one coat. So you guys could probably hear the roof oil can in there a little bit. I need to try not to do that because I don't want it oil canning while I'm putting the Bondo or the filler on it, because then it's just going back and forth. And like up here at the edge where it's curved a little bit, I kind of curve my applicator to match the radius, and then I spread it that way. So right now I'm just trying to get filler into all the low spots. And I'm speeding up a little bit here now and not being as precise about it because it's starting to harden up on me already. So I know I'm going to have to put a second coat on, so I just want to try to get a nice even coat on first, and then I'll come back with my second coat again later after I sand it. So alright, looks like I put a lot of filler on there, but probably 90% of that's going to get sanded back off. And with the first batch that I did on the other side and this batch on this side, it looks like I pretty much covered everything that I need to cover. So we'll let that sit up and dry, and then we'll go through the sanding process on the first coat. Alright, so as you guys can possibly hear and see, today is not exactly ideal conditions for Bondo or body filler. So it's really humid out, like extremely humid. I'd say there's probably 99% precipitation, but it'll still be okay. It just takes a little bit longer to dry. Another thing I forgot to mention is I clearly didn't put any primer or paint or anything on this roof before the filler. And my reasoning for that is, and I've talked to a few of my buddies that do body work, and filler tends to stick to metal that's been roughed up with like 80 grit better than it sticks to primer and paint. I mean, it's still gonna stick, but that stuff's getting hot. I can literally feel it activating. It's hot. So that's good. This side's still a little bit sticky. This side over here, not so much. It's already cooled down, which pretty much means it's hardened up. But so got it laid out for the first coat. It's looking pretty good. I've got a longboard sander, and that's what I'm going to be using to sand it. This is it right here. I've got 80 grit paper to put on it, and then I'll show you guys the sanding process I do also. But with this board, I can lay it flat across here, and I can just go up and down, and it'll be resting on the right spots, the spots of the roof that are where we're supposed to be to begin with. And then I can just back and forth, this sideways, other way, straight on, and just get it to go even with the existing part of the roof that didn't have any highs or lows or anything on it. So I'll show you guys that whole process when I start doing the sanding. And but right now I'm waiting on cure time, so I'll get back with you in a little bit. All right, I'm gonna go over how I sand with you. I'm not gonna film sanding this whole thing because it takes a while. But I'll go over the process, show you how I do it, and I'll sand this part back here, and then we'll do the rest. So I'm gonna wear a mask. Just a good idea too. I've got really bad allergies, and this dust will kill me if I don't. So here we go. I'm hoping you guys can hear me with the mask on, but we'll go without it for a minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start down here, and I'm just going to go keep my longboard flat. I'm just going to try to take the really high rough spots out the first thing. Kind of go back and forth. I'm not really like forcing it down, but I am putting some pressure on it. Right now I'm just trying to knock off all the excess so I can push a little bit harder than I would if I was just sanding it. That way for a little bit. Come back. Go this way for a little bit. I don't want to stay in one spot. Like, I don't want to sand just this area, because then that's going to be low to everything else. So I want to keep moving pretty evenly across. That's pretty much the gist of it. I'm going to put the mask on. You guys won't be able to hear me talk, but I'll let you see what I do here for a couple minutes, and then I'm just going to keep sanding. Alright, I got that part fairly close. I still got a little bit of a low right here, a little bit of a low right here, and a little bit of a low up here. So I need to go change out my paper. It's starting to get clogged up pretty good. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll sand out the rest of this, and then I'll bring you in here and show you what it looks like when I'm done sanding the first coat. Okay. I got the whole first coat sanded down. I'm definitely going to need some more filler, which I expected anyways. You usually, well, I can't never get it on the first coat. But we got it all sanded. It's pretty smooth. It's a little low right here at the edge. That's why you can't see it feathered out there at the edge, because there's a low right there. I need a little more filler. You can see that dark spot right there. That's a low, that needs a little more filler. A little here, and then I just had a gouge in my filler right there, which is my fault from spreading it. So I'll just put a little bit more over this area and this area, and a little over here. Over here, I got some little gouges in the filler that's my fault I gotta fix. It's a low spot right here, and then a couple more nicks. But overall, this side came out really good. So just a little bit more sanding, that side will be good. And then over here, this back, it might need just a touch right there. It's barely low, but you'll see it in paint. Other than that, this back is good, except for this little spot right there. Once again, that's my fault. And then over here, this corner all came out really nice. I'm really happy with the metal work that I did. I'm impressed with myself, because I don't know how well you can see it, but the filler's so thin that you can see the metal through it in most places. So I'm pretty happy with that. I got a couple gouges from the way I spread it I gotta fix, and then this whole spot right here, like right there, is low. Part of this is me with the filler, but part of it's just a little low. And then I got some more issues with how I applied the filler there. It just didn't go out smooth. So overall, not too bad. I'm pretty happy. I'm gonna have to put just a little bit more filler on there. There's this little pin dent right here that I totally forgot about. It's so small I couldn't even get all the paint out of it. So I need to just put a little slotch of filler over that. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the second coat on, let it sit, sand it down, and then we'll go on. All right, I got everything cleaned up. I got the second coat of filler on here. Probably a little bit excessive amount, but once again, I'd rather sand more off, even though I hate sanding. I'd rather sand more off than have to put another coat on. So I did end up putting a little bit in that spot that I wasn't gonna put any in, just because I'm trying to be perfect. We all know that's not possible, but I'm trying. And then I ended up putting a lot over here, and probably end up sanding 85% of it back off, but that's okay. So, but coming along. If I can, my goal for today is to get the filler work done and get it cleaned up and get a coat of primer on it so I don't get any more flash rusting on the roof. The flash rusting on the roof was kind of my fault too, because the only place it flash rusted was where I sweated on it when I was working on sanding and pulling and all that kind of stuff. But I can't really control the sweat. I mean, it just kind of happens, and if I'm sweating, I'm hydrated, so I guess that's a good thing. So I just want to get it cleaned up, get the body work done, get it cleaned up, and get a coat of primer on it so I don't have to worry about it flash rusting anymore. So I'm gonna go sand this off, and we'll catch up with you in a second. All right, if the camera just mysteriously falls and takes me a minute to get back to you guys, it's because my arms are like lemon jello. That's a lot of sanding. I got away with 2 coats, well, 1 coat and then kind of a touch-up coat, and then I had to do a 3rd coat in one spot and kind of a 2nd coat on that little ding that I forgot. But I'm really happy with it. I think it turned out pretty good. We'll know here in a few minutes when I spray some primer on it. You might be asking why I'm going to spray primer on 80 grit, and it's a good question. I'm using self-etching primer, and right now I just want to get the roof to where it's not bare metal. I want to get it covered up. So I'm going to shoot self-etching primer, a couple coats of it over the 80 grit, and if I put a few coats on it, that should be enough that I can sand it up, block it out with like a 320 or 360 or something, and paint over that. So yes, it's going to be more work. Well, it's going to be about the same amount of work either way, because I can take the roof skin and the body filler down to 320 or 360 and then shoot the primer on it and have to block it out again, or I can just shoot the primer on where it's going to have a good bond. With those self-etching primer with the 80 grit scratches everywhere, that primer should stick really good. So that's my method of madness behind it. I've got it, the whole roof's at 80 grit, the body filler's at 80 grit. I'm going to put probably 3 to 4 coats, 3 to 4 decently heavy coats of oh, thought I just seen a dent, sorry about that. 3 to 4 heavy coats of self-etching primer on there, and then I'll let it sit up, and then when I come back and sand everything, the whole cab, to get it ready for paint, then I'll go back and block it out with 320 or 360. So here's the other side. I put a 2nd coat on that low spot right in here, kind of all this, and then I had to come back and put another spot in that low spot, but it came out good. This side's all smooth, came out good. So like I said, we won't know how good it is until I spray some primer on there, because as soon as you get any kind of primer, paint, marker, anything you could use to cover that metal back up, you get that on there, you'll see lows, you'll see highs, you'll see scratches, you'll see dents, and that's when it really shows your work. So fingers crossed I did a decent job, but if I didn't, I can still put filler on primer. So if we got to do a little bit more, we got to do a little bit more, because I like to do stuff right. So I'm gonna clean up a bunch of dust, so when I'm spraying, I'm not getting the paint gun out and spraying primer on the roof. You know, just, I consider this just spot repair. I got a couple aerosol cans, self-etching primer. That's what I'm going to do it with. The few little spots on the cab, the few little spots on the door, the few spots on the bed. They're going to get body work. They're going to get aerosol can primered. The whole truck will get blocked out, and then it's getting sprayed with single stage, and that'll be sprayed professionally by me out of a gun. So you guys took that as I was saying it. It's probably not going to be all that professionally, but like I say with a grinder, if you got a grinder, anybody can be a good welder. Well, if you got sandpaper and a buffer, anybody can be a good painter. So one way or another, we'll work it out. But I'm going to take a tack cloth. Well, first I'm going to clean up a bunch of the dust around there so the aerosol can doesn't blow any up into the paint. Then I'm going to take a tack cloth and wipe it all down very, very well, and then I'm going to start shooting some primer on there. Alright, this is the tack cloth. It's basically just like a, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a, can't think of what it's called right now. Cheesecloth. That's what I'm trying to think of. It's basically like cheesecloth with leftover adhesive from a sticker on it. Like, it's real sticky and it's got a lot of pores in it so that it can attach all the dust and particles and stuff to it. So I'm going to take this and go over that roof just to get all the dust off of it. I took my air blower and blew everywhere that I'm going to be blowing paint just to stir all that dust up, get it gone from where it's going to be hitting the get hit with the air from the paint spraying. And now I'm just going to go back and wipe the roof down really good, try to keep as much dust out of the primer as we can. Alright, you can see, you might be able to see, I cleaned this roof, blew it off and then cleaned it again, and it still picked up quite a bit of dirt. So now my hands are all sticky, and I'm going to start painting. Not worried about getting any overspray on the black or the door jambs or anything like that, because I have to go back and sand all that stuff out anyways. So whatever overspray gets on it, I'll just sand it out when I sand the rest of it out. You guys probably can't see it, but I'll show you when I'm done painting. But the body filler really absorbs the paint, and it looks really like, it dries the paint really fast and looks really dull and like different. But it's gonna look like that probably all the way up until we spray color. So if you're doing this and you see that happen, don't freak out about it, don't worry about it, it's fine. Okay, first coat's done. I'm going to let it tack up, put 2 more coats on, and then once all 3 coats are on and it's dry, then I'll bring you guys in there and see how bad how good my body work is. All right, 3 coats of primer. installed, and they've had time to set up, and they're not dry. I mean, it's going to take a couple hours for it to dry, but it's set up, so we can kind of get a look at it. I've already looked it over, of course. I couldn't wait, but here it is. Everywhere we had our dents, nice and smooth. And so far, looking over it, the only place I found that I'm not going to be able to fix with sanding the primer is right there. And I think there must have been an air bubble that popped in the filler or something, and it was probably full of dust from when I was sanding. And every time I wiped it off, I never saw it because it just stayed in there. And then when I took the blow nozzle and blew everything down, it probably blew the dust out of the hole. But there's a few little tiny spots where like the filler puked. They got like little air pockets in them or whatever and puked them out. Little one there. Couple really small ones over here. You guys probably can't even see them, but those should all sand out in the primer. If not, I got glazing and spot putty, so that'll fix it. Glazing and spot putty will fix that little spot that I showed you. But just from the naked eye, I think it looks pretty dang good. Is it perfect? No. Was it perfect when it came out of the factory? No. So I'm gonna call it a win. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, especially right here. I mean, even though I know and I'm the one that did it, if you told me there was a big dent as big as that dent that was right there, I'd call BS. So I'm pretty happy. I don't do body work very often, but I buckled down and told myself that I don't care how tired your arms get and how bad you sweat and everything else. You're not shortcutting anything. You're not pulling the DA out to start sanding. You're gonna push through. You're gonna do it right. You're gonna do a good job. And I did. And I think it turned out pretty good. Now, with that being said, we just have the whole rest of the truck to go. So the rest of the truck's not gonna be that bad. Most of it's gonna be DA sanding and then blocking it smooth. But before I end this video, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Yeah, you can. The dent right there. There's a dent right there. There's a dent right here. And there is a very small spot of rust down here on the cab corner that I'm gonna patch up. I plan on doing that tomorrow. I've already put in a full day's work today. So I plan on finishing doing that tomorrow and having that in this video. A couple different techniques to do things. And then that'll be it. So hang tight. I'll be back in the morning or in a second. All right, I'm back. It's the next morning, feeling good, ready to get going, finishing up this cab. I figured I'd bring you guys over and show you the roof one more time with the primer all dry. It came out really good. So all the dents that were here are gone. Pretty smooth. That self-etching primer I use really is like, I mean, for the most part it's self-leveling. Works pretty good. And once again, I'm really happy with the way the roof came out. There's a couple places I might have to put a little bit of spot putty in, just because some air popped out of the filler or whatever, but nothing bad. I think it's going to sand out really nice, and I'm excited. It's not very often that I do body work, and it's definitely not very often I take the time and do that good of a job, so I'm real happy about it. Today, we're going to work on this dent right here. This dent right here, this dent right here, and then that spot of rust down there that I showed you. So I'm gonna get some abrasive wheels fired up and get some paint off, and then we'll start fixing them. Okay, this spot right here was just a big chip in the paint. I just took some of that off to make it smoother for when I sand it. So we got our little dent right here, and we got a little dent right here. Now both of these dents are right on the edge of this corner. So if I run my hand down the outside edge, I can feel a little bulge there where when that dent pushed in, it popped that out. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my smooth body hammer, and I'm just going to kind of tap that down, and it already kind of remade this corner and made that dent smaller. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. Almost made that dent go away. There's still a little, but yeah, that dent's gone. A little bit of filler, that'll be perfect. So this one on the other hand, this one's got like a sharp little point in there, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of pulling on that. But this one will stick a little glazing putty. I don't even think I need to mix up filler. We'll just stick a little glazing putty on that, or if I make up filler to fix some of the other spots, we'll just throw a little bit on. But it's good to go. I'm gonna get the puller out, and we'll pull this little spot, and then it's not much. I could fill it with filler, but like I said before, I want to try to get the metal as straight as possible because I don't want a whole lot of filler on this. I forgot to mention too, when I did the filler yesterday, it might have looked like I put a lot of filler on the roof, but it really wasn't that much. Like, I put a decent amount on, but 90% of it got sanded back off and ended up on the floor or in the trash can. So it really doesn't have a whole lot of filler, and it's what I wanted. So our metal work on the roof turned out pretty decent. Didn't take a whole lot of filler. Most of the spots, except for where I knew the lows were, you could see through the filler basically, so it's super thin. So I'm real happy about that. We're going to try to do the same thing here. I'm going to try to pop this out a little bit, and I know I'm going to have to do some pulling on that side because it's kind of like a big crease right at the cab corner. So we'll get our fancy new toy back out and do a little more pulling. To be honest, I could just fill this, but I got this new toy. I might as well play with it, right? I was talking to one of my buddies that does body work, and he gave me a couple pointers. He said I was holding the thing on there too long when I welded the studs on, so I'm going to try to do it just a little quicker. And he also gave me a better way to get them back off without a whole bunch of sanding and grinding. So and I think I finally figured out how this little latch on here works, so we're in better shape there too. Alright, well, that pulled that out pretty dang good. He told me if I grab a hold of these nice and tight and don't have them over welded like I was, and just, yeah, broke it off clean, barely even need to sand it, and it came out pretty good. So that's going to do it for these two dents. I mean, a little bit of sanding, a little bit of filler, and we'll be good there. I'm going to go over and do that other bigger one on the other side, and then we'll tackle this cab corner down here, and then we'll throw some more mud on it and some primer, and cab will be ready to sand. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit different. It kind of, in my opinion, looks like it kind of came in from the side and pushed. So it's really high right here, and it took this whole corner in from here to here. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to tap around out here to get that in. Actually, yeah, this is pretty high right here, so we're going to try to get that in, and then we'll put a couple studs in this crease here and see if we can't get it to come out some, and see how we can do. Once again, I'm not a professional at this by any means. I just like to do stuff myself, and I'm figuring it out as I go, kind of. So. Alright, that took that in pretty good. I'm going to put some studs in there and do a little bit of pulling and see where it goes from there. That might not have been long enough. That's better. Try that, see what happens. Now on something like this, being that it's a crease, I'm gonna try to over pull it a little bit, and then I can tap it back in. You can kind of tell when you're pulling, because if you're just tapping, the metal comes out really easy, and when it gets close to where it's supposed to be, it takes a lot more to pull on it. So That makes life so much easier knowing some little tricks. Thanks, David. So that came out pretty good. I think I'm gonna do one more. I probably could have over pulled this whole spot with one stud and got it out, but I didn't. You also got to remember what you're doing, because I just welded that on there and then pulled it, and now my first instinct's to go back and rub my hand over it and see if it's fairly smooth. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's probably still warm. But just looking at it, see, I almost did it already. Just looking at it, it looks way better. So we got it out pretty much where it needs to be. So I don't want to take a grinder to it or anything. Once again, guys, don't take everything I say like it's, you know, gold. My method's kind of what I figure out to do, and it's working for me. So if it helps you guys, great. If it gives you some motivation to try yourself, even better. But I'm not saying that this is the right way or I'm doing it, you know, textbook or anything like that. I just kind of figuring it out as I go, and so far so good. So I don't want to grind on this. I'm just going to take my DA with some 80 grit and just kind of go over this, smooth it out, and see, because I'm pretty sure where I welded my studs, it looks like it's a little high. But I don't want to start tapping on it to bring it back in until I sand over it and see where my highs and lows are. So I'm going to go grab my sander with some 80 grit real quick, and we'll just run over that and see how it looks. Alright, I'm having some issues with my DA here. The little button that makes it turn on and off keeps sticking on me. And I tried getting it out, and I don't want to ruin it, so basically I just plug it in, it starts spinning, and I use it. Alright, so kind of just like I thought. It's a little bit high there where I pulled. So I just tap those down. Alright, that's not high anymore. Once again, a little bit of filler. So gonna do it for that till we put some filler on it. Next thing is the little cab corner down there, and it's really close to the ground, and I don't know if I can get this camera down that far to explain it. So I'm going to try to get down there on the floor and show you guys what I'm going to do, and then I'll do it, and then I'll give you updates as I go along with it. Okay, just in case you see these spots and notice that I sanded them down, there was some bubbles in the paint there. You can see a little bit of rust was kind of starting back there. I'm going to put some rust converter on that spot where those bubbles were. And then I might put some glazing putty on it just to make sure it's nice and flat, or just some high fill primer, and then we'll be able to sand that out. But here's the spot down here that I got to fix. I already ground all around it. Now the reason this is as bad as it is It's because this whole cavity in here is packed solid with dirt. Dirt gets in there, humidity gets to the dirt, turns into moisture, and it just sits back there and rots it out from the inside. So I ground back far enough that I got clean metal, so I'm gonna come across here, down here, and down here, and cut that out, and then I'll work something in this edge right here. And then I'll kind of roll a piece of metal so it matches the profile of the cab corner here. And then I'll have this cut out, I'll clean it up, I'll clean up my new piece, and then I'll weld it in. And we'll probably end up putting just a real skim coat of filler on it just to smooth it out. But first thing I'm gonna do is dig all this dirt out of here, get a screwdriver or a pick or something and rough it up as much as I can, and then get my vacuum in here and try to suck as much of it out as I can. And then I'll cut that piece off. All right, I got my rotted piece cut out, and you can see it kind of has a roll on the edge there where it goes up next to the rocker. And I'm gonna try to duplicate that. Worst case, I can weld straight to the rocker and we'll just make it smooth there, which when they put them in originally, the rocker is pinch welded to the, or spot welded to the cab corner, and then they put seam sealer over it to smooth it out. So if I just weld it to it and put a little bit of filler on there to smooth it out, you'll never even notice. It's so low and so far underneath you won't notice anyways. But I got my piece. I got some template cardboard here. So I'm gonna take and put this on here. And then I'm just gonna take and mark this out. This is just gonna get us close, and we'll be able to work with it from there. But I'm gonna put a dotted line. Sorry if you guys are up close and personal. I'm trying to use my offhand to draw and my good hand to hold the piece and film. So I'm gonna put a dotted line there because I know that I need to put that edge on here also. So we're gonna come out a little bit more. I'll straighten this all up when I have both hands to use, but just for the principle of it, that's gonna be like that. So I don't have a shrinker stretcher or any of the tools that I'm gonna need to put this radius on this piece with a bend in it. So we're just gonna do the best we can and see how it comes out. Like I said, worst case, we put a flat piece in there and just finish it to the rocker. So I'm gonna get this cut out. I'll work with it in there, make sure it fits good and all that stuff, and then we will put it on some metal. I was working on my patch piece, getting it formed and kind of test fitting it and forming it some more, and test fitting it, forming it some more. Got it right where I wanted it, stuck it up in the cab, welded it on, ground it down, started mixing some body filler and went, wait a minute, I didn't film nothing. But at that point it was too late. I was already mixing the body filler, so I turned the other camera on just to kind of do a little time lapse of putting the filler on the truck. But that's where I'm at now. I got the filler on, got my cab corner fixed, put the filler everywhere that we fixed today and whatnot, and Now I'm just giving it some dry time. Still a little sticky, has some heat in it. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but the hardener and the body filler, when you mix it together and then kind of work it out, its reaction is heat. Like it gets really, really hot to harden. And so that's one way for me that I can tell when it's ready to sand. Like when the stickiness is gone and filler feels like room temperature or feels like the rest of the vehicle again, then I'm like, okay, it's dry, I can sand it. So just a little tip you may not have noticed before, or if you're planning on trying Bodywork and haven't done it, that's how I know when my filler's ready to sand. So wait till it cools down. But I'm waiting. It's going to take a little bit more. It's humid again today. So once that filler is all cured up, we'll start sanding on it and we'll update you. Filler's all sanded out. I was able to get it smooth with one coat. I didn't have to add anymore, so that's a plus. That sanding's getting to me. I'm still tired from the roof yesterday, but got her primered. That's all done. That's all done, smooth, nice, ready to go. Got all this over here sanded down, primered, cap corner, everything's ready to go. And other than blocking it out to 360 and smoothing it out real good, it's ready to paint. So all the body work is done other than the sanding. But I'm going to take tomorrow and just sand that whole cab, get it all ready for paint. And then the guy that owns the truck is going to come and pick it up, and he's going to take it over and put it in his garage so that I have more room in here to work the other panels, and so that it's not out there getting dust and everything all over it. So we're going to take it, put it in his garage, cover it up, and we won't see it again until we're ready to paint it. Then I've got the doors, the hood, the fenders, the bed. Another piece I haven't told you about yet, but you'll see it here soon. And just little stuff. I can set those up, work those, get those all done. Hopefully I can get through the bed, the tailgate, the other piece, the hood, the fenders, and the doors next week, so the following week we'll be ready to paint, because we're getting down toward the end of August here, which only leaves me a month. And once it's painted, I got wet sand and buff it after I give it some cure time, and then I still got all the reassembly and all that stuff to do. So I'm not overhauling. We don't do these things in 3 days. It's all me by myself with a little bit of help lifting and moving sometimes, but I don't want to run out of time is what I'm trying to say. I want to keep pushing, get through it, get it painted, get it back over here. Once it's painted and back over here, that's when it goes downhill for me. All the hard work is done. So that's gonna do it for this video. Little continuation of the last bodywork video along with some more. Basically just pulling dents and filling them, sanding them, primering, getting it ready for paint. The next video is going to be some more body work, but it's going to be different stuff, because those are going to be panels where I can get to the back side and use hammer and dolly techniques, and I can show you a little bit of that. Filling holes, like where the factory emblems were on the fenders and stuff, we're going to get rid of those. We're changing the style of mirror that's going on it, so we'll fill some holes in the doors. Just different, same stuff, different stuff all together. But that's it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.